In this video we're going to look at how to find the area of composite shapes. So this is kind of hard to see, but we'll just write out the numbers as we go, and that should make life a lot easier. So for this first one, we are really looking at a set of two rectangles. And this set of two rectangles, or this shape that's basically composed of two rectangles, can be divided in a couple of ways. What we're going to do is we're going to divide it this way. This is one way that it can be divided. Like this. And the other way that we could divide it is if we didn't want to do that, we could also divide it like this and create two rectangles, one here and one here. So either way is fine. Let's just try it the first way. Okay. So if we divide it like this, what have we got? We've got a rectangle that's 14 centimeters, 26 centimeters wide, and 14 meters wide and 26 meters long. This might be kind of hard to see. This is 14 meters, and this is 26 meters. So this side along here, this total side, will be 26 meters as well, and this will be 14 meters up until this point. Okay, so there's our first shape. And to find the area of a rectangle, we know its length times breadth, which in this case is equal to 14 times 26. Okay, so that first rectangle is equal to 364 meters squared. Now how about we find the second rectangle? Well, we know this side is 8 meters, which means this side is also 8 meters. But what is this side here going to be, and by association this side here? Well, this whole length from here to here is 25 meters, and we've used up 14 meters of it on this first shape. So the length here is going to be 25 minus 14, and 25 minus 14 is 11. So our shape down here is going to be 11 meters by 8 meters. So rectangle 2, what is rectangle 1, is equal to 8 times 11, which is equal to 88 meters squared. So the whole shape is the sum of these two numbers. So area is equal to 364 plus 88, which is equal to 452 meters squared. Alright, so once we've subdivided it and worked out what each area is, then we just add them together and we have the value of our composite shape. In this next one, it's a little bit more complicated because we can divide it in a few different ways. Let's just divide it into 3 rectangles. And 1. Okay, so we've produced 3 rectangles. For two of these, we can solve them straight away. This one is going to be, we'll call this rectangle 1, rectangle 2, and rectangle 3. So rectangle 1 is going to be equal to length times breadth, which is 5 times 8. 8, which is equal to 40 centimeters squared. And rectangle 2, well, rectangle 3 actually is the another easy one, which is equal to length times breadth, which is 9 times 4 times 4, 36 centimeters squared. The problem with our next one is we have how wide it is. We have the the breadth, but which is also 3 centimeters, but the length is not something we have access to, but we can get it. One way is by noticing that our total length is going to be this quantity, which is 10 centimeters, plus this quantity, which is 4 centimeters, or we can do it the other way, but that requires us to solve for the difference between the other sides. So that's the easiest way to do it. So we see that 10 plus 4 is going to be 14. So rectangle 2, put an L there, is equal to 14 times 3, which is 42 centimeters squared. Now if we add these all together, we should get 118 centimeters squared. So area equals 118 centimeters squared. Okay, so the next one is another rectangle one. Just at this point in the video, if you want to pause it and give it a go yourself and then resume and see how it's answered, that is also something that I would recommend. So this one again is going to be 3 rectangles, and we can divide this one in a number of ways. Is that the way to do it? It doesn't seem like a good way of doing it. What about this way? That's better. Okay, so here's our rectangle 1, which we already have the dimensions for. Here's our rectangle 2, which we can get the dimensions for quite easily. And rectangle 3, we can also resolve the distance quite easily. So rectangle 1 is equal to 4 times 3, length times breadth. So 4 times 3, which equals 12 meters squared. Rectangle 2, well, we have the same width or breadth, but we have a different length. And this length here, this length from here to here, is going to be equal to 5 meters plus 4 meters. 4 meters, and then add on the 5, which is equal to 9. So rectangle 2 equals 9 times 3, which equals 27 meters squared. And then we have rectangle 3. Well, we have the same distance here, and we've just been adding one to the other, so we're going to do the same thing here and add this 6 to our 9, which is 15. So this distance here is 4 meters, this distance here is 5 meters, and this distance here is 6 meters, and we're adding every single one of them up to work out this total distance down the bottom. So that is going to be equal to 15 times 3, which is equal to 45 meters squared. And if we add these all up, the area is going to be equal to 45 plus 27 plus 12, which is equal to 84 meters squared. Alright, in the next one we're done with rectangles, kind of, but we have another shape that we need to work out. If we divide this here along this line, we can see that we have a triangle and a rectangle. And the area of a triangle, if we remember our area of a triangle from the previous lesson, the area of a triangle is equal to half times base times perpendicular height. Which is abbreviated to half times b times h. So, what do we have here? We have a rectangle, so the area of rectangle, so rectangle 1 is going to be equal to 14 times 8, which is going to be equal to 112 meters squared. But we need to work out what this perpendicular height is going to be in order to solve. We already know that it's going to be 14 meters across, so we know the base. But we need to work out the perpendicular height. Well, we know that the height of the rectangle goes to here, and that's 8 meters. And this distance here must also be 8 meters. So what is 11? This distance here is going to be 11 meters minus 8 meters, which is going to be 3 meters. So the area of our triangle is going to be equal to half times the base of 14 meters times our perpendicular height, which we worked out was 3 meters. And that works out to be 21 meters squared. So the total area is equal to 21 plus 112 meters squared. And that is equal to 133 meters squared. Now for this next one, we're going to just have to make some room. So I hope you've gotten all this information about the triangles down, because I'm just going to remove our last example. So we'll just copy this, and then we will create a new layer and Control V, and then I'll turn this off, and I will grab this back to here and just hit delete. Okay, so our next one is a bit different as well, because if we divide it, we can see that it makes a trapezium and a rectangle. So our area of a trapezium, if we remember from the previous lesson, is equal to a plus b over 2 times perpendicular height, where a and b are both the parallel sides of the trapezium, and h is the perpendicular height. So our area of our trapezium is going to be equal to well, we can say A is equal to 11 meters, and we can say B is equal to 18 meters over 2 So 11 plus 18 divided by 2 is 14.5 times our perpendicular height. What's our perpendicular height going to be? Well, we know that this height of our rectangle is 8 meters. So, and we know that the total height of the entire shape is 15. So to find this height here, this perpendicular height between the top of the trapezium and the bottom of the trapezium, what we need to do is take 8 away from 15, and that will be 7 meters. So if we times this by 7, then what we should get is the area of our trapezium, which is going to be 101.5 meters squared. Now we just need to work out the area of our rectangle, which is going to be equal to length times breadth, which is going to be equal to 8 times 18. Which is 144 meters squared. And we just add those together and we get our area. 144 plus 101.5, which is equal to 245.5 meters squared. So one way to think about this is that you really need to experiment in how you divide these up. Depending on the information provided, there might be a better way to subdivide the shape, and you should really look for easy options. This one up here had 2 ways to divide it, but one way gave you all the dimensions you needed for the first rectangle. And the following ones really didn't have that many ways you could divide them successfully. So make sure you're dividing these in the ways that give you the most information, but also in ways that you know how to solve for. If you know how to solve for triangles and rectangles but forget trapeziums, then try to find a way to subdivide it with triangles and rectangles. But remember that knowing all these formulas will be the most helpful way for you to get through these problems.